The dark psychology of high vibration souls. Even the brightest light casts the darkest shadow. Carl Jung. If you've ever been told you have a powerful presence or a radiant energy, then this message is for you. High vibration souls inspire others with love, wisdom, and positivity. But beneath that light lies a hidden strength, a fierce spiritual force that emerges when you are tested. In today's video on spiritual wisdom, we're diving into the dark psychology of high vibration souls, revealing why your kindness shouldn't be mistaken for weakness, and how your shadow can be your greatest protection. Have you ever felt that when someone wrongs you, life has a mysterious way of balancing the scales? Comment below if you've noticed this energy in your own journey, and let's rise into a deeper understanding of who we truly are. 1. Karmic acceleration. Highly vibrational souls walk through life as embodiments of spirituality and spiritual awakening, radiating kindness, compassion, and truth. Yet there is a profound force beneath their calm surface that many underestimate. Carl Jung once said, "Where there is light, there must also be shadow," and this perfectly reflects the hidden side of those with elevated frequency. They are not naive beings who allow mistreatment. Instead, they are protected by universal laws that respond swiftly when harm is directed toward them. Their energy is pure and aligned with purpose, and because of that, karma listens closely to their experience. Anyone who attacks their peace, manipulates their trust, or tries to diminish their light ends up triggering a rapid karmic consequence that returns their own negativity multiplied. This phenomenon, known as karmic acceleration, is not something they consciously activate. They do not seek revenge, and they do not wish pain upon others. Their hearts are too evolved for that. Instead, they simply allow the universe to handle what the human ego cannot. Their spiritual awakening strengthens the bond between their soul and the natural law of cause and effect. So when someone sends darkness their way, the universe responds immediately, not out of punishment, but out of balance. It is like a spiritual boomerang. The darker the intention thrown at them, the faster and harder it returns to the sender. Some people discover this truth the hard way, wondering why their life suddenly collapses after betraying someone whose energy was rooted in love. A high vibration soul is a catalyst of truth. Their presence exposes hidden motives, peeling away masks people desperately try to wear. Those with pure hearts feel safe around them, while those with deceitful intentions feel discomfort, fear, or irrational anger. This exposure is not caused by anything they do. It is caused by the energy they naturally carry. It is difficult to lie to someone who is aligned with their inner wisdom, who sees through manipulation with ease, who senses emotional shifts instantly. When they walk away from toxicity without causing a scene, that silence is what activates universal intervention. The person who harmed them may think they got away with it. But soon, life begins returning every piece of negativity they projected. Highly vibrational souls are guided by something greater. Their purpose is too important for the universe to allow sabotage. So when someone attempts to block their spiritual growth, drain their energy, or pull them off their path, the universe rapidly removes that person, sometimes through conflict, sometimes through distance, and sometimes through the karmic downfall of the offender. Doors close, opportunities disappear, relationships crumble, and emotional turmoil rises, all as a reflection of the harm they once caused. Karma is not cruel. It is educational. It teaches people to stop exploiting kindness and to stop confusing gentleness with weakness. It teaches them that harming someone aligned with spiritual truth is the same as harming themselves. People often say, "Nothing good happens after I hurt that person." That is because they attacked someone the universe chose to protect. Those who support a high vibration soul rise with them and receive blessings, while those who betray them fall by their own actions. This is the dark psychology of high vibration souls. They do not retaliate with words or violence. They simply continue living in alignment, and that alone dismantles the negativity directed at them. Their light is not soft, it is a sword. Their silence is not weakness, it is divine protection in motion. And their presence is not ordinary, it is a reminder that energy never lies, and the universe always keeps its promises. Do you believe in karmic acceleration? Comment below with faith. I trust the universe's justice. 2. Immunity to energy vampires. High vibration souls possess a unique immunity to energy vampires because your spiritual field is built on truth, inner alignment, and self-respect, making it impossible for negative or manipulative people to drain you the way they drain others. Instead, they are the ones who lose energy in your presence, becoming tired, frustrated, or even disoriented, as if their hidden intentions are exposed under the clarity of your light. You operate from a place of genuine spirituality and spiritual development, not from ego or the need to please others. And because you have learned how to hold your inner power, you no longer allow unhealthy attachments or guilt-based manipulation to penetrate your peace. When someone tries to siphon your joy, they quickly realize that your energy cannot be stolen or controlled because your strength does not come from needing approval, but from knowing who you are and refusing to betray your own soul. Even when an energy vampire approaches you with subtle manipulation, acting like a victim, demanding attention, or creating emotional chaos, their tactics collapse in front of you. Your aura acts like a shield that reflects their darkness back to them. They try to take your light, but instead, they are forced to confront their own shadow. Like Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life. When they stand near you, the unconscious becomes visible. And for people who hide behind deception or emotional parasitism, this feels deeply uncomfortable. Your energy becomes a mirror that shows them the emptiness they work so hard to avoid. You do not even need to defend yourself or fight back. Your vibration itself does the work. The higher your consciousness rises, the harder it becomes for others to manipulate or drain you. Because you are committed to spiritual development, you have learned an essential truth. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-harm. You are kind, but you are no longer naive. You give love, but you never abandon your self-worth. You support others, but you refuse to carry their unhealed wounds at the cost of your mental and emotional well-being. This is why energy vampires often disappear from your life without explanation. They cannot survive where they cannot feed. They may even accuse you of being too distant or too strong, but what they truly mean is, I cannot control you anymore. And that realization leaves them powerless. Your presence interrupts their patterns. Your peace disrupts their chaos. Your clarity exposes their manipulation. Your vibration dismantles their control. They leave not because you failed them, but because you awakened them, and awakening is painful for those who cling to darkness. So they retreat, weakened, searching for someone else who will allow them to drain freely. Meanwhile, you remain aligned, protected, and energized because you are plugged into a deeper source. Your purpose, your truth, your spirituality. You shine without trying. You heal without forcing. You stand firm without aggression. And that is why high vibration souls become untouchable in the face of toxic behavior. You have evolved beyond being a battery for someone else's emptiness, and your growth itself becomes your shield. If this message resonates with your soul, share it with someone who needs protection from draining energies. Together, let's help more high vibration spirits stay strong, sovereign, and immune to energy vampires. 3. Shadow reflection. High vibration souls carry a rare kind of light, and that light works like a mirror, revealing truths others try to bury deep inside themselves. When you walk into a room, you do not just brighten the space. You reflect people back to themselves, their ego, their insecurities, their unresolved trauma. This can feel uncomfortable for those who are used to hiding their wounds behind masks. As Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Your presence forces what is hidden to rise to the surface. People may admire you at first because they can sense something powerful and pure in you. But admiration can quickly turn into resistance when their shadow is exposed. Without saying a word, you reveal where they feel inadequate, where they lack confidence, and where healing has not yet happened. You become the trigger, not because you harmed them, but because you remind them of what they have tried to forget. It is easier for them to blame you than to face their own truth. They may distance themselves, criticize you, or treat you with coldness, all as a defense against what they feel inside. Your energy becomes a quiet catalyst for transformation. Just by being yourself, you show others the gap between who they are and who they could become. And that gap can feel like a wound. Jung explained, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Your presence demands evolution, theirs and yours. Even when they don't understand why they feel jealous, intimidated, or uncomfortable around you, their reaction is a sign that something inside them is shifting. Some will grow because of you. They will thank you for helping them see their shadow and heal what was broken. They will come to appreciate the spiritual wisdom you bring into their lives, the gift of awareness. But others will reject the mirror altogether. They are not ready to confront their pain, so they turn away from the person who reflects it. They see you as a threat, not a blessing, because facing the truth requires courage they have not yet developed. This is why high vibration souls often feel misunderstood or unfairly judged. You are not here to please everyone. You are here to awaken them. Your spiritual awakening intensifies this mirror effect, making you a living reminder that authenticity exists and that excuses are no longer enough. When people react negatively to you, understand what is really happening. They are facing themselves. They are wrestling with their shadow. You do not need to dim your light just to soothe someone else's darkness. Stand tall in your truth, because your energy is not the problem. It is the solution they are not ready for. Even if they do not realize it now, you have planted a seed of transformation. And one day, when they are strong enough to look into the mirror again, they will finally understand the gift you were all along. 4. Detection of deception. High vibration souls possess a unique form of perception that goes far beyond what the eyes can see. Their spirituality sharpens the senses in a way that feels almost supernatural to others. They detect deception instantly, as if their intuition has already decoded the truth before a lie is even spoken. Their energy is aligned with honesty, so whenever someone tries to hide their motives or twist the truth, that misalignment becomes loud and unmistakable to them. This is not imagination. It is a heightened instinct born from spiritual awakening, a deep attunement to the subtle vibrations behind words, actions, and intentions. People who operate from deceit feel nervous around them. Their heartbeat shifts, their voice changes, their eyes look away, and high vibration souls notice every detail without trying. They sense the tension between what someone says and what their spirit is actually communicating. And it is this inner alarm system, this spiritual radar, that protects them from manipulation and betrayal. Carl Jung emphasized that the unconscious always leaks through, and high vibration souls are the ones who can read those leaks effortlessly. They watch the tiny inconsistencies others overlook, the forced laugh, the delayed response, the overly polished story. Every small sign exposes the larger lie beneath. Dishonest people instinctively feel threatened in their presence. It is as if their masks begin to crack the moment they stand close. They feel exposed because high vibration souls are mirrors, reflecting truth so clearly that lies struggle to survive. These intuitive individuals don't even need to confront the deception. Their silence alone becomes pressure, a force that pushes hidden intentions into the light. And those with dark agendas hate that feeling. They call these spiritually awakened individuals too sensitive, too suspicious, or overthinking, just to invalidate the intuition that scares them. Yet this ability does not come from arrogance. It comes from experience, painful experience. High vibration souls have been lied to, used, betrayed, manipulated, and left to heal in silence. And instead of allowing these wounds to harden their heart, they allowed them to awaken the spirit. Their energy became fine-tuned to patterns of deception so that the same harm would never be repeated. Every lie they once believed became a lesson. Every betrayal they survived became wisdom. Their empathy matured into spiritual intelligence. Authenticity rises naturally around them because their energy encourages honesty. When someone has pure intentions, they feel safe, seen, and understood in the presence of a high vibration soul. But when someone's words and spirit are not aligned, that same presence becomes uncomfortable, almost unbearable. It's not because the high vibration soul is judging them. It is because their light forces the truth to surface. People either align with that light or run from it. This is the dark psychology of a high vibration soul. They do not expose lies with aggression, revenge, or loud confrontations. They expose lies simply by being who they are. Their spirituality becomes a shield. Their spiritual awakening becomes a weapon of truth. And anyone who tries to deceive them will eventually reveal themselves out of fear, guilt, or the pressure of facing someone who cannot be fooled. If this insight resonates with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that protects your energy and sharpens your intuition. Comment below. My intuition sees the truth. 5. Powerful influence. You may not always see it, but your presence alone has the power to shift the entire atmosphere of a room. And within spirituality and spiritual development, this influence becomes undeniable. When a high vibration soul like you walks in, the energy rises, standards elevate, and suddenly masks start to fall away. You don't even have to speak. Your authenticity exposes hidden intentions and reveals who people truly are beneath their practice roles, because your energy demands honesty. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And this pain often shows up when others are forced to confront the parts of themselves they have buried. Some people feel inspired in your presence, admiring your strength, your inner clarity, and the peace you radiate with such ease. But others, the ones still afraid to grow, feel threatened the moment your light reveals the shadows they refuse to face. They do not understand how you maintain integrity while the world pushes everyone else toward pretense. They do not understand why you refuse to shrink or settle. So instead of asking themselves how they can rise higher, they look for ways to dim your shine. Jealousy becomes a shield, gossip becomes their language, and resistance becomes their only form of self-protection. They aren't angry at you. They are angry at the version of themselves that never dared to evolve. And that is the dark psychology of being a high vibration soul. Your presence is both a blessing and a disruption, because you are a mirror that reflects the truth people avoid. You force them to see what they could become if they chose courage over comfort. Yet, do not forget that you are also a powerful catalyst for transformation. The ones who are ready to awaken cannot help but be drawn to you, as if your energy calls their potential forward. Even in silence, you empower others to rise. Without preaching a single lesson, you awaken something sleeping inside them. But that very awakening demands a choice. Either they grow with you, or they cling to their old patterns. And that choice reveals exactly who is aligned with your journey and who fears the responsibility of real spiritual development. So continue to embrace who you are without apology. Your influence is not accidental. It is a divine gift. You were not designed to be small or invisible so others could remain comfortable in their stagnation. You are here to elevate every space you touch, to disrupt what is false, and to expand what is possible. Let people admire you or resent you. It makes no difference. Both reactions confirm your impact. Keep shining boldly. Keep raising the energy. Keep showing others what real growth looks like simply by existing as your truest self. Because light does not wait for permission. It transforms everything the moment it arrives. 6. Ruthless boundary cutting. High vibration souls are often seen as soft-hearted and endlessly forgiving, but those perceptions barely scratch the surface of their true inner strength. Their greatest psychological armor is their ability to cut off anyone who repeatedly disrespects their spirit. When someone crosses a line too many times, when manipulation continues behind smiles, or when kindness is met with exploitation, they do not argue, they do not beg, and they do not seek validation. They disconnect with decisive and permanent finality. Many misunderstand this as coldness, yet it is one of the highest forms of self-respect. As Carl Jung once said, The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, and high vibration souls have accepted that protecting their peace is their sacred duty. They know that spiritual wisdom requires boundaries, not because love disappears, but because love for themselves must come first. This boundary cutting feels ruthless to those who expected endless access to their empathy. People who once benefited from their patience often experience shock when the door slams shut and never opens again. It is in that moment that everyone realizes how powerful a high vibration soul truly is. The same open heart that once embraced others without judgment can also become a steel barrier when needed. They do not announce their departure or explain their silence, because genuine spiritual awakening makes them understand that energy speaks louder than words. When a pattern of disrespect reveals itself, they choose clarity over chaos, peace over attachment, and inner freedom over emotional chains. They refuse to let guilt or fear keep them in situations that drain their spiritual light. The truth is simple. Detaching completely is sometimes the only path to survival. High vibration individuals feel deeply, and that emotional sensitivity is not weakness. It is their superpower. But a superpower is also a responsibility. They have learned through pain that not everyone deserves access to their energy. Some people only take, only drain, only consume. And for an awakened soul, allowing that to continue would be self-betrayal. They can forgive someone 100 times, but the 101st betrayal becomes the turning point where their heart transforms from unconditional support to unbreakable boundaries. When they walk away, they stay gone. No more chances. No more explanations. No more rescuing someone who refuses to rescue themselves. Their silence becomes the loudest lesson. Spiritual wisdom teaches that your soul must be your top priority. That is why high vibration souls do not fear solitude. They fear losing themselves. Cutting ties is not cruelty. It is sacred protection. People who say, "You've changed," are often the same people who benefited from the old version of you. But growth demands evolution. Jung taught that what you resist persists. High vibration individuals no longer resist their inner truth. They embrace it fully, even when it requires saying goodbye to those they once loved. Their absence becomes a mirror that forces others to confront their own behavior, their own shadows, their own failure to appreciate what they had. This form of boundary cutting is not revenge. It is closure. It is spiritual awakening in action. It is the bold declaration, "My peace is non-negotiable." When they choose themselves, the universe honors that choice. New relationships appear, ones built on mutual respect, emotional reciprocity, and aligned values. Their life elevates because their standards elevate. People who once underestimated them finally understand that kindness does not mean weakness, and love without limits is not love, it is sacrifice. High vibration souls stop sacrificing themselves. They rise. If this truth resonates with you, let it be your declaration of power. Comment below, "My boundaries protect my peace," to honor your strength and inspire others to do the same. 7. Illuminating vulnerabilities. High vibration souls carry a presence that is not merely seen, but deeply felt. And this presence becomes a living mirror that exposes the hidden internal world of others, revealing the wounds they try to suppress and the defense mechanisms they use to protect those wounds from being seen. Because when you embody true spirituality and spiritual awakening, your energy naturally creates contrast, making the unresolved pain in others impossible for them to ignore. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And this wisdom explains why the light of a spiritually awakened person often triggers discomfort rather than admiration, as their existence silently asks others, "Why are you still pretending?" Their energy reflects exactly what someone does not want to see: insecurity, jealousy, attachment, fear, and unhealed trauma. Yet this illumination is not meant to wound. It is meant to awaken, acting as a catalyst that encourages growth, truth, and inner healing. However, transformation is a choice, and not everyone is ready to confront their darkness. So while some feel inspired and drawn toward the awakened energy, others respond with resistance, judgment, or hostility because their ego interprets exposure as a threat rather than an opportunity. It is like placing a bright light in a dark room. The moment truth enters, every hidden corner becomes visible, and the person must choose either to start cleaning the mess or to turn off the light and attack the source of illumination. High vibration souls unknowingly become the light switch in the lives of others, and this can lead to two very different outcomes. People who are ready for spiritual awakening feel understood, supported, and encouraged to rise into a higher version of themselves, as if the mere presence of this soul gives them permission to heal. But those who are not ready often react with emotional defensiveness, pushing away the very person whose energy could heal their inner chaos, because facing themselves would require accountability, vulnerability, and change three things the ego fears most. This is why high vibration souls attract complicated reactions. They expose the gap between who someone pretends to be and who they truly are inside, a gap many avoid acknowledging for years. Some will project blame onto the awakened soul, claiming, "You make me feel insecure," when the truth is that their soul is finally being confronted with what it has avoided. Others may attempt to diminish or sabotage the awakened individual to silence that uncomfortable reflection. The irony is that these reactions are not personal. They are psychological protection as the shadow fights to stay hidden. Jung reminds us that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And high vibration souls embody that exact process simply by existing. Their power is not loud, aggressive, or forceful. It is subtle yet undeniable. They carry truth, and truth always disrupts illusion. They carry healing, and healing always disturbs the wound before it repairs it. They carry love, and love always confronts fear before it dissolves it. So while their presence may activate discomfort, that discomfort is the first step toward liberation. Those who choose growth will evolve because of them, and those who refuse will be triggered by them, proving that their light is not only something beautiful, it is something transformative, disruptive, and spiritually necessary. High vibration souls do not expose darkness to shame others, but to remind them that they too have light waiting to rise. 8. Catalysts for unwanted change. High vibration souls are catalysts for change, not because they try to change others, but simply because their presence exposes what has been ignored for too long. When you show up aligned with truth, authenticity, and inner peace, you shine a light on everything around you that is not aligned, and this creates an internal pressure in others that pushes them towards self-realignment. Many will initially resist this spiritual awakening because comfort is familiar, even when it harms them, while growth demands that they confront their fears, insecurities, and hidden truths. Yet your energy makes denial impossible. As Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And still, your vibration leaves them no place to hide. Those who encounter you begin to sense a silent invitation to rise higher. Excuses lose power. Patterns that once felt acceptable become unbearable. Their spirit recognizes that standing next to someone committed to their spiritual development means they can no longer pretend they are not capable of more. Some will feel threatened and respond with jealousy, projection, or distance. Others will feel inspired and respond with self-reflection, effort, and change. Either way, they evolve, because staying the same becomes too painful in the presence of someone who is already becoming the most aligned version of themselves. Your life demonstrates another possibility, one where truth is chosen over illusions, responsibility over blame, purpose over drifting. As they watch you embody strength rooted in spirituality rather than ego, they begin to question where they have betrayed their own growth. You awaken hunger for healing, for clarity, for a life that reflects the soul rather than fear. Even if they never say it out loud, they know your energy pushed them forward. They know that your light showed them the path they were avoiding. They know that you became the mirror that forced honesty and the catalyst their transformation needed. Some will walk away when the pressure to grow feels overwhelming, not because you did something wrong, but because evolution requires courage, and not everyone is ready. The ones who stay because their soul has chosen progress. High vibration souls disrupt stagnation, remove illusions, and elevate the standards of every room they enter. You do not demand change. You simply make change unavoidable. If you find this content touching your heart, please consider becoming a member to receive more in-depth lessons and direct support from me. Even the brightest souls carry a powerful shadow, not as a weakness, but as a reminder that true light is born from balance. Your high vibration is not just about love and peace, but also about strength, boundaries, and spiritual justice. So embrace every part of who you are, because your energy is far more formidable than most people realize. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to leave a like, share this video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Also, turn on the notification bell so you never miss the profound insights we have coming next. Thank you for watching. Keep rising and keep protecting your light. Why empaths feel lost. Carl Jung's hidden map to your true self will shock you. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Aristotle. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we explore the deeper layers of consciousness and self-discovery through the lens of Carl Jung. In today's video, Why Empaths Feel Lost, Carl Jung's hidden map to your true self will shock you. We'll uncover why so many sensitive souls feel disconnected and how understanding your inner map can guide you back home to your authentic self. Remember, personal growth begins when you stop trying to fix yourself and start learning to understand yourself. Have you ever felt lost in the emotions of others? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's grow together on this journey towards spiritual awakening and true happiness. 1. The empath's hidden struggle. Empaths possess a rare spiritual sensitivity that allows them to feel the emotions of others as if they were their own. But this very gift often becomes their greatest burden. Carl Jung observed that such heightened perception creates what he called emotional fusion, a psychological entanglement where the empath's boundaries dissolve and their inner world becomes clouded by the pain, fear, and desires of those around them. In this state, they are no longer guided by their authentic self, but by the energetic tides of everyone else's emotions. The empath begins to lose their center, drifting in an ocean of collective feeling, unable to tell whether the sadness they feel belongs to them or to the world they've absorbed. This is the moment Jung's concept of individuation becomes vital, a process of spiritual awakening that leads the empath back to their core identity, to the sacred center that exists beneath all borrowed emotions. Jung believed that the path to healing begins when the empath recognizes that sensitivity is not meant to enslave them, but to awaken them. The purpose of feeling deeply is not to drown, but to understand the unseen connections that bind all life. Through spirituality, the empath learns to transform emotional fusion into conscious compassion, to observe rather than absorb. It is a shift from identification to awareness, a subtle but powerful movement from being a mirror of others to becoming a light of understanding. When the empath stops internalizing external pain, they awaken to their own essence, realizing that love and empathy do not require losing themselves in the suffering of others. They discover that their gift was never about carrying the world's wounds, but about illuminating the path to healing. This spiritual awakening unfolds gradually. At first, the empath feels an aching emptiness, a void where their own emotions should be. But that void, Jung would say, is not the absence of self. It is the silence waiting for truth to emerge. In that silence, the empath begins to sense their authentic vibration, the original frequency that existed before the world's energy entered them. They learn to protect their inner space through awareness, mindfulness, and grounded presence. They begin to draw energetic boundaries, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, understanding that one cannot heal the world by becoming sick with its pain. Spirituality, for them, becomes not an escape, but a realignment, an act of remembering that the soul's purpose is not to merge, but to emanate. Jung's hidden map to the true self is not a linear path, but a spiral journey inward. Each turn of the spiral brings the empath closer to self-realization, deeper into the awareness that their identity is not defined by emotion, but by consciousness itself. In this realization, they find freedom. The empath, who once felt lost in the storm of human feeling, now stands still at its center, radiating clarity. They understand that to feel everything is not to be everything. And in this understanding, a new kind of love is born, one that is rooted, discerning, and whole. The empath no longer seeks to be understood by others because they have finally understood themselves. And this, Jung would say, is the highest form of spiritual wisdom, the moment when the empath, through awakening, becomes not a reflection of the world's emotions, but a mirror of the divine. Have you ever felt lost in everyone else's emotions and forgotten who you truly are? If so, share your experience in the comments below so others can learn from your journey. If not, Comment, "I will rediscover myself." And let's begin this path of self-awareness together through Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom. 2. The empathic shadow. Carl Jung taught that every empath carries within them a hidden psychological shadow, the unconscious need to be needed. This is the wounded healer complex, a pattern where your self-worth becomes tied to saving others, where you unconsciously seek purpose through other people's pain. You feel valuable only when you're helping, fixing, or understanding someone. Yet beneath that kindness hides exhaustion and silent resentment. You carry the unspoken anger that comes from years of emotional overextension, from giving more than you receive, from crossing your own boundaries in the name of love. This is the spiritual illusion many empaths live inside, believing that spirituality means endless sacrifice, when in truth, real spiritual growth begins with learning that compassion without boundaries is self-destruction. Jung observed that this pattern often begins in childhood, when an empath learns to survive by tuning in to the moods of others. You may have grown up reading your parents' energy, calming conflict before it erupted, or absorbing emotions to keep peace. That sensitivity became your gift, but also your prison. As an adult, you may enter relationships where you constantly play the healer, the listener, the safe space, yet feel unseen and depleted. You begin to wonder why love feels like labor and why you always end up emotionally tired. Jung believed this is because you confuse empathy with merging. You take on others' emotions as your own, losing your sense of self in the process. The empath becomes a mirror for everyone but themselves, reflecting others' pain while forgetting their own reflection. The path of spiritual awakening for the empath is the path of reclaiming the self. It is not about shutting down your heart, but learning to protect it. It is understanding that your energy is sacred and that saying no is sometimes the most loving act you can offer. Jung's work reminds us that individuation, becoming who you truly are, begins the moment you stop defining yourself by what others need from you. True spirituality is not about saving the world. It is about aligning with your own soul so deeply that your very presence becomes healing. When you honor your boundaries, your light grows purer. When you stop rescuing others, you rescue yourself. When you stop absorbing everyone's emotions, you finally hear the quiet wisdom of your own inner voice. As you grow in awareness, you realize that helping others is not your identity. It is a natural expression of your wholeness. You no longer give from emptiness or guilt, but from fullness and peace. You no longer seek validation through your ability to care, because your worth is no longer built on pain. Jung's hidden map to the empath's true self reveals that love without self-awareness turns into bondage, but love guided by consciousness becomes freedom. Spiritual growth invites you to balance heart and boundary, compassion and clarity, giving and receiving. And in that balance, you find that your presence alone, not your sacrifice, is what truly heals others. Comment below, "I am ready to face my shadow," if you're ready to embrace your true self and step into your power. Let this be your moment of awakening, empath. 3. The false persona. Many empaths grow up believing that love must be earned through selflessness, and over time they unconsciously create what Carl Jung would call a false persona, a sensitive healer mask that radiates endless compassion and warmth. On the surface, this seems noble, but beneath it lies a quiet exhaustion. You may smile when you want to cry, Comfort others when you need comfort, or pretend to be strong when your spirit is running on empty. The more you give, the more people adore you, yet the less you feel connected to who you truly are. Jung's spiritual wisdom reveals that this mask isn't born from deceit, but from survival. As children, many empaths learned that peace existed only when everyone else was calm. So, you adapted. You tuned in to every emotion in the room, absorbing pain like a sponge and translating chaos into harmony. It became your gift and your cage. The persona grew stronger with every moment you silenced your own needs to protect someone else's heart. Jung understood that every persona conceals a shadow. For empaths, that shadow often holds the emotions you've been taught to suppress: anger, frustration, the desire to say no, or the longing to be seen for who you are rather than what you give. When these parts of you stay buried, they start whispering through anxiety, fatigue, or a vague sense of being lost. You might think you're broken, but you're not. You're just carrying too many emotions that aren't yours. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This means that the healing path isn't about rejecting your empathy. It's about reclaiming your authenticity. The mask you wear to keep others comfortable is the same one that hides your own brilliance. To find yourself again, begin noticing the subtle moments when your kindness turns into performance. When you help because you fear rejection instead of because you truly want to, pause and breathe. Ask yourself, what do I feel right now? What do I need? Every time you choose honesty over perfection, you take a step toward individuation, the process Jung described as becoming whole. It's not easy, because authenticity demands courage. You will disappoint people who prefer the version of you that exists for their comfort. But as Jung taught, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. That terror is also the threshold to freedom. When you stop defining your worth through how much you can fix, heal, or please, you begin to discover the quiet strength of simply being. This is where true spiritual wisdom begins, not in becoming more loving, but in learning to love yourself as deeply as you love others. To be authentic doesn't mean abandoning compassion. It means allowing compassion to include you. When you release the pressure to always be the healer, you make space to be human. You stop chasing approval and start embodying truth. Empaths were never meant to drown in others' emotions. They were meant to understand them without losing their center. The false persona may have earned you acceptance, but your soul craves alignment. When you finally remove the mask, you don't become less light. You become real. And in that realness, every wound turns into wisdom. Every boundary becomes an act of grace. And every breath reminds you that being true to yourself is the highest form of love there is. 4. The individuation map. The first stage of Carl Jung's hidden map for the empathic soul is shadow integration, a courageous process of facing the darkness within the unhealed parts that crave validation, the anger buried beneath compassion, and the wounds that quietly demand to be needed. Jung's spirituality reminds us that true healing begins not when we suppress our pain, but when we meet it with awareness. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. For empaths, this means recognizing how the desire to fix others often masks the longing to be seen, loved, and understood. It is a spiritual awakening that asks you to stop identifying with your pain and instead learn from it, transforming emotional chaos into inner strength. By allowing yourself to feel fully without judgment, you begin to reclaim your energy and see that your sensitivity was never weakness. It was divine intelligence guiding you toward truth. The second stage, persona dissolution, invites the empath to release the caretaker identity, the mask built to earn love through sacrifice and silence. Many empaths mistake self-erasure for compassion, believing that peace means pleasing everyone. But Jung's path of spirituality and individuation exposes this illusion. The persona is the role you play to survive in a world that often misunderstands your depth. To dissolve it is to free yourself from the burden of constantly rescuing others at the cost of your own peace. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This stage teaches that loving others does not require losing yourself, and empathy without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. The moment you stop apologizing for your light, you begin to embody the essence of authentic love, one that nourishes rather than depletes. The third stage, active imagination, is where your spiritual awakening deepens. Here, Jung encourages you to enter dialogue with your unconscious through dreams, symbols, and reflections. This is the sacred language of the soul, where intuition speaks in whispers and archetypes reveal hidden truths. For the empath, this stage is a rediscovery of inner power, transforming emotional sensitivity into spiritual insight. Through meditation, journaling, and creative visualization, you connect with the deeper layers of your psyche that have long waited to be heard. Each dream and emotional trigger becomes a bridge between your conscious mind and your higher self. In this space, you begin to see that spirituality is not about escaping the world, but about entering it with awakened awareness, where every experience, even pain, becomes a teacher. The final stage, self-realization, marks the moment when the empath steps fully into wholeness. Here, empathy is no longer a wound, but a gift refined by wisdom. You no longer absorb others' emotions unconsciously. You sense them with clarity, compassion, and strength. Jung's spirituality shows that the goal of awakening is not detachment, but balance to love deeply without losing yourself. Healthy empathy blooms when you can give without depletion and receive without guilt. Boundaries are no longer walls. They become sacred spaces that protect your peace while allowing love to flow freely. In this state of self-realization, the empath no longer sees themselves as broken or too sensitive, but as an awakened soul, grounded, discerning, and radiant with inner authority. Through shadow integration, persona dissolution, active imagination, and self-realization, Jung's hidden map becomes not just a path of psychology, but a living journey of spiritual awakening, where the empath finally remembers that their light was never lost, only waiting to be seen from within. If this message speaks to your soul, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Your journey of self-discovery and individuation continues with every insight you unlock. 5. Archetypal empathy. Empaths carry within them the invisible currents of archetypal energy, the deep, timeless forces that Carl Jung called the collective unconscious. These energies, such as the victim, the savior, or the mother, are not random emotions, but living symbols that move through the human soul. When an empath unconsciously channels these archetypes, their empathy becomes overwhelming. They take on everyone's pain, trying to save, to heal, to comfort, without realizing that these impulses are not entirely their own. The victim archetype makes them feel responsible for suffering that doesn't belong to them. The savior archetype pushes them to rescue others, even at the cost of their own peace. The mother archetype urges them to give endlessly, even when their spirit is empty. These patterns create emotional compulsions that leave them drained and disoriented, unsure where their energy ends and another's begins. Yet Jung taught that what is unconscious rules us until it becomes conscious. Once you begin to see these energies for what they are, ancient forces, not personal burdens, everything changes. Empathy transforms from emotional chaos into sacred power. Spirituality and spiritual growth begin when awareness enters these hidden patterns. Instead of being consumed by the victim, you learn from it compassion without martyrdom. Instead of becoming the savior, you embody love without losing yourself. Instead of being trapped in the mother's self-sacrifice, you nurture from a place of balance and strength. The moment you realize that you are the vessel through which these archetypes flow, not their prisoner, your empathy becomes an instrument of wisdom rather than exhaustion. This awareness does not disconnect you from others. It connects you more deeply, but with boundaries made of light. You begin to sense emotions with clarity instead of confusion. You recognize that not everything you feel belongs to you. You become the observer, still compassionate but anchored in your own soul. You start to hold space for others without absorbing their chaos. This is the alchemy of empathy that Jung hinted at, turning unconscious energy into conscious power, turning feeling into wisdom, turning pain into purpose. Through spirituality, you no longer drown in collective emotions. You become the healer who understands them. Every time you stay centered in your awareness, you elevate the energy around you. Every act of self-understanding ripples outward, transforming empathy into divine equilibrium. This is how the empath's journey, once filled with confusion and fatigue, becomes the very path to spiritual growth, where sensitivity evolves into sacred mastery and feeling too much finally becomes a feeling with divine intelligence. 6. Conscious empathy and emotional sovereignty. Empaths who begin to awaken often realize that they have been living their lives entangled in the emotional webs of others, unable to tell where their energy ends and someone else's begins. Carl Jung, through his profound spiritual wisdom, explained that the journey toward wholeness, what he called individuation, requires learning emotional sovereignty, the art of feeling without absorbing. True empathy does not mean merging with everyone's pain. It means standing in awareness so deep that you can witness another's suffering without drowning in it. When you reach this level of consciousness, you no longer confuse compassion with self-sacrifice, nor love with the need to fix. You begin to help others from a place of fullness rather than from the empty wounds of your own unhealed past. Carl Jung believed that when an empath loses their boundaries, the psyche becomes flooded with projections, illusions, and foreign emotions that blur the sense of self. He called this psychic inflation, a condition in which your inner world becomes too crowded with energies that do not belong to you. Spiritual wisdom teaches that this happens because empathy, when unconscious, becomes an open channel without discernment. But the awakened empath learns to close the channel when necessary, not out of coldness, but out of clarity. You start to understand that saying no is a sacred act, and that boundaries are not barriers, but bridges to authentic connection. You stop rescuing others out of guilt or fear, and instead offer your energy as a conscious gift, one that empowers rather than enables. As you step into emotional sovereignty, you begin to notice how emotions flow through you like waves, yet you remain the ocean vast, grounded, unshaken. Jung often compared the path of individuation to alchemy, where the raw lead of unconscious reaction is transformed into the gold of awareness. Each time you observe an emotion and recognize, "This is not mine," you are refining your soul. Each boundary you establish becomes a ring of light around your spirit, protecting your peace while allowing your compassion to shine even brighter. Emotional sovereignty does not isolate you. It connects you more deeply to humanity because you no longer serve from pain, but from power. You begin to radiate healing simply by being centered in your own truth. When you cultivate this awareness, you understand that empathy is not a burden, but a sacred instrument tuned to divine frequencies. You learn to sense, feel, and understand others while remaining rooted in your own inner harmony. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." In reclaiming your awareness, you stop being unconsciously directed by others' emotions or the chaos of the world. You become a calm presence amid noise, a mirror that reflects truth without distortion. To be an individuated empath is to embody the balance between heart and wisdom, to love without losing yourself, to feel without falling apart, to give without forgetting that your energy is holy. This is the transformation Jung envisioned, where empathy evolves into enlightenment and compassion becomes your natural state of being. 7. Practical empathic alchemy. Emotional sorting is the sacred art of recognizing what emotions are truly yours, a vital act of self-awareness that marks the beginning of your spiritual awakening. Many empaths carry emotional energy that does not belong to them. Fear, grief, or anxiety that has been unconsciously absorbed from others. Jung's wisdom reminds us that the path to wholeness begins with discernment. When you learn to pause and ask yourself, "Is this emotion mine?" you reclaim the power to separate truth from illusion. Emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. They pass through you, but they are not your identity. The moment you become the conscious observer rather than the absorber, you begin to experience emotional freedom. You start to feel lighter, clearer, and more rooted in your own energy, understanding that empathy is not about taking on pain, but about transforming it into compassion through awareness. Boundary rituals are the next step in this empathic alchemy. They are not just mental barriers, but spiritual practices that protect the sacred temple of your energy. Every empath must learn that self-preservation is not selfishness. It is alignment with divine order. Jung once observed that loneliness is not a lack of people, but a lack of understanding. Boundaries allow you to reconnect with your inner voice and maintain that understanding with yourself. Cleansing rituals, mindful solitude, breathwork, prayer, or even spending time in nature are ways to strengthen your energetic shield. When you see your energy as sacred space, you stop giving unrestricted access to those who drain your light. Boundaries teach others how to love you properly and remind you that your peace is holy. Protecting your energy becomes a daily act of devotion, a form of spiritual discipline that keeps your empathy balanced and clear. Authentic expression is where your soul begins to breathe again. So many empaths silence their truth to avoid conflict, but this silence only suffocates the soul. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that means allowing your authentic self to speak without fear. Expressing your truth does not mean shouting louder. It means speaking honestly, with presence and love. Each time you express what is real for you, you release the tension of suppressed emotions and restore harmony between your inner masculine and feminine energies, your strength and your sensitivity. Living authentically allows your outer life to reflect your inner truth. Your words, choices, and actions begin to align with your higher self, and that alignment radiates peace, confidence, and spiritual power. The more you embody your truth, the more your presence alone becomes healing for others. Shadow work is the final and most profound stage of transformation. It invites you to confront the darker sides of empathy, the urge to fix others, the subtle superiority of believing you are responsible for their healing, or the hidden control masked as compassion. Jung revealed that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When you face your shadow with humility, you uncover the deeper motives behind your empathy. You learn that true compassion does not rescue. It respects free will. It does not absorb pain. It understands pain. By integrating your shadow, you transform empathy from emotional chaos into spiritual mastery. You no longer drown in the suffering of others because you have turned your own darkness into light. That is the alchemy Jung spoke of, the process where empathy matures into wisdom, where sensitivity becomes strength, and where spirituality is no longer about escaping the world, but about living in it with awareness, grace, and divine clarity. As we move deeper into the path of empathic alchemy, let's honor the courage it takes to transform sensitivity into true spiritual wisdom. Your presence here means you're not just feeling, you're learning to transmute emotion into power. Comment below, "I am mastering the art of empathic alchemy," to affirm your growth on this sacred journey. Now, let's continue unveiling Carl Jung's hidden map to your true self. 8. Integration and rebirth. True individuation is not a gentle awakening, but a sacred dismantling of a psychological death that precedes rebirth. It is the moment when the empath finally releases the identity of the wounded healer, the one who has carried everyone's burdens, mistaking compassion for self-erasure. As Carl Jung revealed, the path of the self demands that we turn inward and reclaim what has long been fragmented. This is not a rejection of empathy, but its transformation into conscious empathy, the kind that feels deeply yet remains rooted in inner peace. It is a profound stage of spirituality and spiritual growth, where you begin to understand that saving others is not your mission. Embodying your light is. The empath who once dissolved into others' pain now becomes a radiant lighthouse, steady, luminous, and sovereign, guiding others not by rescuing them, but by showing what inner balance looks like. You no longer absorb every emotion around you. Instead, you hold them in awareness, like waves passing around a rock that does not move. This is how true healing begins, not by taking in the darkness of others, but by allowing your light to remain unshaken within it. As you grow in consciousness, the energy that once scattered across everyone's chaos now gathers within your own field, like a golden current of clarity. Compassion matures into discernment. You start recognizing that boundaries are not walls. They are sacred lines of self-respect drawn by love. The awakened empath's gift is no longer self-sacrifice, but sacred service. In this rebirth, you learn to give without depletion, to love without losing yourself, to feel without drowning. You stop confusing your purpose with the pain you once carried, realizing instead that every wound was a teacher, every heartbreak a portal. Each time you faced emotional collapse, your soul was guiding you toward the awareness that wholeness was never something to be earned. It was who you already were beneath all the noise. Carl Jung called this arrival the encounter with the self, the divine center of consciousness where opposites unite. Here, light and shadow are no longer enemies, but allies revealing the fullness of who you are. You understand that your empathy was never a weakness. It was a compass pointing toward divine integration. You no longer need to heal by merging with others. You heal by embodying your truth so completely that it naturally elevates those around you. The old empath dies so the true empath can be born one who radiates serenity instead of suffering, one who knows that stillness is not emptiness, but power contained. This is what it means to walk the path of conscious empathy, to become light that neither blinds nor burns, but simply shines. And through that shining, you realize the deepest truth. Spiritual growth is not about adding more light, but remembering that you are light itself. When you stop identifying with wounds and begin identifying with wisdom, your very presence becomes medicine. You become what Jung called the living symbol of the self, the embodiment of balance, love, and divine purpose. This is the true integration and rebirth of the empath. A soul no longer seeking to fix the world, but anchoring peace within it, showing that real spirituality is not about escaping life, but becoming fully alive within it. And remember, dear soul, the path of an empath isn't about escaping the world's emotions. It's about remembering who you are beneath them. As Carl Jung taught, the true journey is not toward becoming someone new, but toward awakening to the self that has always been within you. So take this wisdom into your daily life and let it guide you back home to your authentic power. If this message has touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming videos that will continue to illuminate your spiritual path.